Hi, I am Inderveer, founder and CEO, EVage. We manufacture four-wheel commercial vehicle, electric vehicles.
Every couple of decades, there comes a moment when there is such a fundamental change in technology that the existing giants end up getting disrupted and a new set of giants are created. In the 1920s, television was the technology change that disrupted the radio companies. In the early 2000s, streaming was the technology change that disrupted traditional broadcasting companies to create giants like Netflix. Currently, we are going through a similar era where electric vehicles are disrupting traditional internal combustion engine vehicles and will create new giants. We've already seen that Tesla is the most valuable car company in the world despite the presence of large legacy automotive giants. In India, EVage is one of the disruptors that is building an innovative four-wheeler electric vehicle platform that would likely emerge as one of the automotive giants of the future. In this episode of the Founder Thesis podcast, your host Akshay Dutt talks to Inderveer Singh about building the four-wheeler EV of the future and why EVage is poised to emerge as a winner in the market. Stay tuned and subscribe to the Founder Thesis podcast on any audio streaming platform to learn from founders chasing large market opportunities through technology disruption.
So I grew up in a business family essentially, and there always was, a desire to create. You sit within family members. You know, what's the next thing they want to create, what they want to build. Those are standard conversations that you end up having as a kid, or listening to, or eavesdropping on, if I may say so. And so that is what my childhood was like, right? Pretty happy childhood, and uh, always motivated by what I saw happen in the family business. And I'm talking about 80s, right? When you had few industrial sort of, large scale industrial setups in place. And also the license charge was still on, I think, during my kid as a child. So it was good. Also, a sense of responsibility to take the family name forward always was there, because it was from a government job slash defense job to sort of starting your own successful startup, and in those days pre-independence actually. And so that was always a motivating theme factor slash, and always wanted to evaluate what our ancestors did.
And how come you didn't join the family business? Uh,
I was part of it for quite some time, but around 2014, when I gained enough experience,
mm.
been around the world, did business around, and
What part of it were you in? Like, were you in sales or in operations or?
I was managing one of the facilities actually. So that included a lot of doing everything, little of everything, nothing of large. But so that was the core idea. But around 2013, I realized that A, this is the time if you want to have a startup. B, the world needs sustainable transportation. And 2014 was the year, if you remember, 13, when smog started engulfing our, cities. And it was disheartening to see, these things happen. And I always, uh, felt that as an entrepreneur, you need to have a larger societal impact rather than just, I mean, valuation numbers are just one part of it, which you outlive for a decade. After that, I guess that doesn't turn out to be so important. What is ultimately important is uh, what is the impact you created on the society? What is the change you were able to make? You know, and again, sort of goes back to what my grandfather or our ancestors would do it. You know, they not only did build a factory or a profitable business, but they provided employment in a city which was unheard of until Reliance came in actually. So, and provide employment and sort of, I have seen with my own eyes how a small venture like that could impact the economy of a small city or a small town. So similarly, that's what I always wanted to do, to sort of bring an impact and help in nation building, the area we are in, building that up. So that's how I ended up looking at EVH, and then mobility was something close to my heart. Um, Born in a technical family doing technical machines, and I still remember late 80s, early 90s. Indian automobile industry was not so mature. Maruti was just putting its, or Suzuki as we call it now, was just pushing its feet into the Indian ecosystem, or Indian automotive landscape. And we had the old horse, Hindustan Motors, and such vehicles around, which needed a lot of repair, you like it or not. And reliability was something that started to seep into India post that. So, you were always uh, tinkering with the car. You see somebody doing that because that was the only option, radiators going over. The standard sight in those days, I don't know whether you've seen those things, but people would remember 80s, 90s, you had to stop your car. You couldn't go 300 kilometers without stopping and sort of changing the radiator water or something. People tinkering over to make it work, and regulations were not strict. People trying to put a bigger engine, smaller engine, trying to get away with such minions. That's how I grew up. So essentially, I ended up requiring a lot of the skills to put a car together as a kid, subconsciously seeing things happen. Uh, I made a electric vehicle, sort of a toy project. It was a scrap 800. It's not all. Those days we used to have the 800, right? And so it was a scrapped off vehicle, and so I managed. It was, I think, after 10th boards, and I managed to run it for 30 kilometers range. But that was the excitement I had, that hey, we can actually make a difference. And this I'm talking before Tesla was even Tesla, right? The car. So that was always there, right? So around 2013, 14 is when I decided, this is what I love to do, honestly, and I would want to pursue this as a hobby, profession, startup, whatever we call it, because it ticked a lot of the right boxes, right? I was passionate about creating automobiles. I was passionate about automobiles as a whole. I enjoyed, working on them. And then the society needed a major, major impact. That was, you know, electrification was one way forward in that case. And lastly, time to create something. So it sort of converged all together. You can always, join the dots looking backwards is what the actual thing is for me. So that was my call to arms and start this company.
And you must have gone through a journey of finding the right product to build. You might
Of
have
course.
had multiple versions of different products you would have tried. Tell me about that journey. Did you start by trying like a passenger vehicle first? Because, as an auto enthusiast, you typically tend to gravitate towards passenger vehicles rather than commercial vehicles.
Okay. You see, vision builds over a period of time. You can't say that you're born with a vision. You have to be in the ecosystem to realize where the world is headed. Uh, being from a family that was slightly B2B in nature, if you can ask me so. My initial thought process was to create a powertrain or something which could be then used by people at large, be it the Marutis of the world or Tatas of the world.
Okay.
But around
What's a
2015,
powertrain for people who are not
okay,
from the auto?
powertrain would be your motor, gearbox, and the axles, which would sort of drive the vehicle forward. Right? So that's a
Okay.
powertrain because it provides power
Okay.
and
So
and,
the
and a
base of
train
the
of
car
components.
on
Yeah,
which the wheels are
the
mounted.
propulsion system. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a propulsion system. The base would be, of course, the chassis. Uh, so we, so our idea was to then build uh, you know, uh, a powertrain and then try to sell it to a few OEMs, so called, and sort of, make money. And that was a very simple idea and how we wanted to start it. Uh, but India was not ready, I guess. There was no push from the government side to move to electric, and people were still struggling to convert from BS2 to PS3 those days. I remember,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that was the struggle, right? Nobody even cared about electric powertrain at that point of time.
Mm.
Uh, so then we said, okay,
Did you
once,
actually build the powertrain? Did you
yeah, yeah,
find
yeah,
customers for it? Okay.
of course. And that was our disappointment. Certainly was here though. We thought of we build the powertrain, selling it would be the easy part. That was the assumption you start with, right? And so that's the moment where you take a pause and relook at what you're doing. Are you wrong? Is
This
your product wrong?
one quick question. So,
Sure.
how did you build a powertrain? I mean, because you're not from that industry, how did you
Well,
actually?
it's all first principles, no, Akshay. Most of it is physics, and you have got a founder who's running a pretty boring industry. That is that aspect. It's just physics that you have to put together, and basic physics says that if you were to push a payload of 100 kgs, 500 kgs, this is the amount of power you need, and from where you generate the power, how you generate it efficiently is an iterative process, and you sort of learn as you build it. So I guess it was just simple physics in that sense to make a powertrain. And we as people try to overcomplicate things, but the reality is it's just it all boils down to the basics of overcoming friction and gravity to move forward. And
Okay.
so
But you must have hired some automotive engineers or so on to actually build a
actually
working.
um, our startup is slightly an outlier. We don't have an automotive engineer in our company. So we have engineers, of course, mostly aerospace, uh, people working in the space industry, but very few in the automotive. And now, as we have grown, of course, we are expanding our version of engineering. But when we started off, it was all aerospace engineers working with us and trying to do it. So, uh, yeah, so it was getting the team together. Of course, nobody believed me at that point of time. Making the first hire was the most difficult one, to be honest. People thought it's crazy, right? I mean, when we started off, today it's a no-brainer. Anybody making a startup or running a startup within the automotive or electric mobility landscape, uh, it's people would actually motivate you because it is actually a in thing or the fad these days. But back in 2014, it was slightly crazy, if I may say so. So nobody believed that. A, why would I enter into an industry which has or no, doesn't have a future? We don't know. B, who would want to risk on a unknown startup their career? But once you struggle, you strive, you tend to find people who are as crazy as you are and as interested as you are to create something for the world. And that's how we sort of started getting the team together. And uh, yeah, but there was a very few people. We had 3 or 4 engineers to put the powertrain together. Uh, and it took us almost 2 years to get it right.
So,
And
you left your family business and got into this full time, or you were
full
doing
time,
both?
yeah. You can't do both, right? You can't ride on two boats at the same time. So, but that was a no brainer for me, honestly, because this is what I wanted to do. I was passionate about it. This is a hobby, passion, profession, whatever you call it. Uh, but that was the whole journey actually.
And you were building it in Jamnagar only.
No, I shifted here after college. I think, yeah, yeah. You know, I was here 2012 onwards. Yeah, in
Here,
Chandigarh.
meaning Chandigarh.
Chandigarh.
Okay.
We are based out of Chandigarh, so Chandigarh is slightly easier for access of talent, I guess, and slightly low cost than a metro city.
Uh-huh. Okay. So 2016, you must have been ready with your prototype and you must have started going to OEMs and you must have started hearing the no's from them.
No, it was even difficult to get an appointment. Yes, those
Okay.
would come later. But in 3 months, I realized, okay, even if I get an appointment, sort of interest to them, right? Otherwise, they would have given us the necessary time. And so that around 2016 we sort of reassessed the situation. But 2016 also was a monumental year for India. Uh, and anything that happens, we say this specific thing made it happen, right? But there are a convergence of factors that lead to it. Uh, and uh, much like mobile telephony, early 2000s, when the projection was that there will be 50,000 users in Delhi alone, over 10 years. I mean, people were able to do it in 2 years, I guess. But uh, that's because a lot of convergences take place at the same time. It's just not one factor. And 2016 was, I believe, one of the most monumental years in the sense that Geo came in and we saw a lot of e-commerce budding suddenly, because you had almost a billion people having accessible internet. People who can't even afford computers were now being able to access the net, which changed the landscape of how consumers behave, how they work. And that's when I realized that, the logistics networks will change with this, because we are a mobility company, right? A lot of things may happen at the top layer, but our focus will be our industry. And that's when it was crystal clear to me, India needs a new age vehicle which can cater to the mobility or logistics landscape. You interestingly asked cars and not trucks, and as an auto enthusiast, to try to make cars. Uh, and this was pivotal to us, because if you look at pollution, and that's what we are, a problem that we are solving, right? Pollution is uh, primarily a factor based on ground transportation, uh, chimney emissions, or coal plants emissions, right? Ground transportations would be 45 to 60%, depending upon the economy, how it performs every year. That's their share in creating pollution. And out of that 45 to 60%, 45% is attributable to commercial vehicles, which incidentally form at least 5 to 7% of the installed population of total vehicles. And honestly, uh, electrification, by then Tesla had become mainstream, was also highly segmented, right? It was for the rich people who can put $100,000 can buy a car, or $80,000. Uh, and honest to God, if you go from your home to your office and back, this is what you would do most of your week. Going on an electric car will not save the environment, right? It may make you look like you will save the environment, but it will not have a major impact. Major impact is where this 40% can be looked at. And that's the problem we were out to solve. And the answer was obvious. You would do the same if that was your object. So it was an obvious answer. And then the other convergence, of course, was the fact that Geo happened, or broadband happened to India, low cost broadband. Uh, E-commerce suddenly started to pick up because people had access to a mobile phone which could then work as a computer. And it became shockingly clear that the logistic networks also need to change, because India as an economy was a hub and spoke. Because essentially, in the olden days, we call it the sabji mandi model, right? There will be aggregation happening, coming to a sabji mandi. It will go from one sabji mandi to the other, and that's how the Indian logistics network sort of developed. But uh, with this, it would become not a hub and spoke model. It will become the fulfillment based model, wherein last mile will become the most critical function. And India did not have a delivery van. If people look around globally, there are specifically delivery vans doing these last mile, mid mile deliveries. We just have trucks to sort of carry on till today. And that's when we decided that we're going to make an electric van ourselves, because anyways there's no takers for our powertrain. And if we have built 30-40% of the vehicles, why not do the rest? And uh, the journey to build a delivery van started, essentially.
So
And
uh, there
yeah,
must be a reason why India doesn't have or did not have a delivery van, right? Because you did have like Omni as an option, but
yeah,
probably people did not prefer to use a van. They preferred.
there was no need. No, as I said, it
Right.
was a sabji mandi model. People used to aggregate stuff and bring it to the sabji mandi from the rural areas. And if I look the reverse side of it, FMCG was the core driver in this case. And FMCGs generally would have one large truck delivering to 15 other villages. Now suddenly consumption became higher, concentration, uh, area of consumption in a single area radius of 5 kilometers became 2 or 3 times now population increase. So it would not be viable to send large trucks to 2 or 3 villages and sort of close it for the FMCG side of it. And similarly,
Then I guess the choice was either large truck or the three-wheelers uh,
yeah,
transportation.
three-wheeler honestly was not an option because uh, three-wheeler would not actually see the globe uses the counter thesis to what the world is doing today, of course. But
Hmm.
in reality, if you look at it, the whole world, which are the countries which are actually using a three-wheeler?
Only, I think, Asian countries, right? No, nowhere in
Mostly.
the West.
And
Yeah.
70% of them are still, or 80% of them are still passengers. For a passenger carrier, I understand there's a need for low cost transportation from point A to point B, where your bus would drop you off, then to go to home. Auto, three-wheeler, the manual driven rickshaw at some point of time. They were good alternatives, right? But how on earth can you just carry 200 kgs and then make a delivery? The cost of a driver would still remain the same. Then the safety issues, because the minute you start loading a three-wheeler, there is no balance, right? There's no fourth wheel to create balance in that. There is a reason why it did not happen, right? And people always say that the future is forward-looking, not backward-looking. But these are certain physics problems which are so easy to understand. Three-wheelers may be good for quicker deliveries, things you want to deliver in 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, like perishables or something, because they can do that job quick and easy and cheap. Uh, but I didn't see a huge potential. And again, how much would I save in terms of carbon emissions? Again, the arbitrage was so low that to us it never made a sense. We always believed that a four-wheel delivery van would be something that India needs and the world needs. That is how our journey of sort of developing this started.
Okay. Okay. So tell me how you developed from a powertrain to a working four-wheel delivery van prototype.
Hey, I'll need your time for 7 years because it took us 7 years to do that. I've, so it
Like
was
just the
it's
highlights
a,
of it. Like
it's
what
it's a
were
long
the
journey, right? There are so many
challenges you
things that,
faced?
yeah, there are so many things that go into this, right? Uh, Integrating the battery pack, getting the BMS right.
What is
It's
BMS?
it's a battery management system. So you have like, few hundreds and thousands of cells depending upon the battery pack, of course. All of them have to charge and discharge at the same time. How do you manage it? And these are complex. So if you make a vehicle, essentially, you need to have all the kind of engineering that are taught in college, right? So that's the complexity. You need electrical, electronics, computer science. You'll need mechanical. You'll need whatnot to get it right. So it's a major monumental task to sort of put wheels to the powertrain, and sort of we realized midway why the car companies are big car companies and not every city has a car company, right? Because the kind of R&D and the effort that goes to build this is immense. It's immense. Uh, and also, if you look at most of the startups which are either D2C or maybe uh, tech companies or SaaS companies, it's about two or three people building one small unique code. It's unique for sure. They use their brains to do it. And then sort of scaling it up is more of a question of putting it on the server and how many users can you get to. Uh, but in our case, uh, it needs a lot of thorough engineering to get it right. And beyond that, it dawns upon you that safety of your occupants, people around the vehicle, is also your responsibility as a designer. I mean, you can't just say, "ठीक है, ho gaya," and we can't do it again. Because it's lives of people that would be at stake for an automobile in case accident happens or something. Uh, uh, s- and that's a pretty heavy responsibility to carry, right? And to sort of ensure that you do justice, because people will put your trust, they will give you their money because they believe that you have done the right kind of engineering, and that is something they can't do. And that's how trade actually started, right? Otherwise, farmers were growing something and they were bartering. Life was amazing, right? We didn't have ROI to rush after 1,000 years back. Uh, So that's a trust they place on you as a brand, as a manufacturer, as a customer, as a producer. So to achieve that kind of uh, performance on paper uh, takes a lot of time. It is no joke. It is where the chef and the wheat is separated, and that's what you have to put a battery BMS together. Then we realized that EV, then you need to have a native EV platform or a chassis which is native to EV. A retrofit is not a solution in this case. Retrofit was a better. This we had 6 months thought about retrofitting instead of three wheelers, but we realized that that's not a solution that will last longer. It could be
What
a.
does retrofit imply here?
I take a truck, change the engine and put a powertrain there, which would have been which would have been the easy way out for us. Would have shown revenue. I think 6 years before anybody did, sort of claimed a lot of kudos, but that is something which is not the right value proposition for the customers. We realized, and as a startup, we always need to pause and think about it. What do you stand for? Uh, and are you consistent with that? Do you stand for making a quick buck? Then this would have been the right answer, is what we thought. We stand for providing a quality product, a reliable product with high performance uh, to our customers, and that would not be it. So we decided, okay, it may be difficult, it may be hard, may question our existence, but if you have to do it, you have to do it right, or you don't do it.
Huh.
And
Paint me a picture of those days. Like, did you have like a
we
like
worked
a
in a 1,200 square feet garage, or yeah, we still have pictures in case we get big. We'll show, EVH was this, and now it is that. So yeah, so it was a small garage, 12 people team. I didn't have an office. I was the chaiwala. I was the accountant. Uh, I was the salesperson. I was a lot of things. But I guess that's the story of every startup. I mean, nothing unique to us in this case. Uh, but yeah, it was. I have welded out the first few chassis with my hands because it was better to do it yourself than outsource it. You'll save money, which will last you longer, maybe, and that would be the difference in hindsight. You survive it for 3 years or 6 years. Such
and
small
you had
decisions.
like a small team with you, couple of people.
Yeah, we were 6 or 7 people doing.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
And this was so far like funded through, I guess your family must have been supporting you.
no, no. So I quit the family business. Whatever accruals I had, savings I had put together, they were put into
Okay.
this business.
And that lasted you for that entire
Our first
quite
round was 2020, just before COVID.
okay. So six
Luckily, we,
years you
we
were
raised before COVID. Luckily,
surviving on your savings.
7 years,
So
7 years, yeah.
amazing.
But we were frugal, right?
Mm.
Of course, I didn't lead the lavish life I was used to, because I mean, it's once in a lifetime you get an opportunity to build a car company. You see, all these things happen uh, in in centuries. There are certain things which would change every decade, but building a car company happen in centuries, and there are major events that lead to it. Example: Ford started in 1902. Between 1902 to 1920, there were 3,000 startups in US making cars. By 1932, they became three, which we call the big three. Uh, so that's when the car companies were formed. Then the next big change came when the oil crisis started to hit in the 70s, and fuel efficient cars became global. That's when you see Toshiba and Toyota and Honda. Yeah, Suzuki was even later, but Toyota and Honda became global in nature as brands. Uh, and then China is now taking over because of electrification. But uh, there are these fundamental tectonic shifts which breed in new car companies slash brands to sort of take you forward. And uh, electrification was one such thing where you could get to form a car company. Otherwise, I can do it in this life. Beyond that, I could not do it. So
Yeah.
it was all worthwhile in hindsight.
Okay. So how much time did it take you to build your first prototype? And I was reading one of your interviews about you choosing a modular approach. Can you
Yeah.
help me understand what that means?
Yeah, I'll come to what are the innovations we are doing for the sake of not being a publicist for my company. I'm trying to not bring in, but
So
I'll give you the details.
I want to hear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So our first prototype was ready early part of 2019, late 2018 and 2019.
Huh.
Uh, and, that was our first prototype. So yeah, I
And
remember.
what
Okay.
were the innovations? Tell me those also. But yeah, finish what you were saying.
पहले तो first thing was to get the vehicle running. Innovations बाद में
Yeah.
आती हैं. Uh,
Right.
we can't think of innovations until you have the confidence that you can run a vehicle. And interestingly, one of our potential customers were to visit our facility to see. And it was a big customer. We had pulled 3 or 4 all-nighters, I remember, to get it ready so that we can at least demo the product.
And this was like literally handmade, like every piece of
Handmade. Yeah,
handmade,
yeah,
hand
yeah.
assembled.
Yeah, and only 6 people building a car.
Yeah,
First time
wow.
ever. First electric commercial vehicle. And that's the story of first electric commercial vehicle.
Yeah.
They were to land at 8 a.m. or 7:30 a.m. And the car actually started at 7:15 a.m. until it so 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 yeah, those were some interesting anecdotes if you like. So that was the first prototype, and since then it has been running touch wood without any stop. Uh, so yeah, so we did that. Uh, so that was the first prototype ready 2019, and then is when you hit the refresh button again and understand. Okay, I mean, now you can make a vehicle or a car. You are confident of it. Now, what would you want to add to the car? Between 2016 to 2019, once we decided to get into a delivery van, delivery truck, whatever you call it, uh, we spent a lot of our time, effort, and resources in collecting the voice of the customer. What the customer exactly wants, what are the pain points, what are the needs. Uh, in a truck, I'll not name the brand for, it's a public thing, but uh, in a truck, uh, the spare wheel is right below the load body. So if, God forbid, your tire punctures while you're carrying the load, you have to empty the load body first, take the tire out, change it. But these are the small pain points, small things that matter, right? Uh, if you have to make deliveries, why you need purpose-built vehicles, essentially. Just- well, a driver or a delivery partner, as we call it, would open and close the door maybe 200 times in a day. He would press on the brake or a clutch maybe 3,000 times. And if a door sort of weighs 15 kgs, you are pulling 3 tons of load in a day, which is what human biomechanics are not made for or designed for, honestly. So, and these are small inputs that we sort of gathered over a period of time. And it's a list of some 150 improvements, of course. Some we have done, some we are in the process of doing. So we had to, you know, uh, make it work properly and bring these changes as asked for. Essentially, we had to get these improvements in and also understand what kind of a company can we to make a car plant or a automobile manufacturing plant. It takes a lot of serious resources. You can't just make it out of thin air. Uh, and we realized that it's a big boys game. It's not that it's good. आपकी hobby पूरी हो गई आपने गाड़ी बना ली. That's when your hobby is over actually. Right? But now to get into serious business, uh, we were very sure we needed to innovate a lot. Uh, and we can't just follow the same principles how the vehicle was made 100 years back, because that's not going to work simply for us until we can raise $1 billion. Honestly, that's what it takes to set up a car plant. Uh, so we took uh, a pause and realized what we can do, improvements in terms of what the customer wants and how we can manage or merge our products with others, right? So what we were able to do was essentially uh, first was an analysis of how vehicles are made. You have a press shop, you have a welding line, you have a paint shop and an assembly line. So there are some 4 or 5 core operations. Uh, pushed into different stations around the car plant. And I don't know whether you visited a car plant ever, but if you look at a car plant, uh, yeah, you're welcome. You can visit ours. You'll not be like
Okay.
others, but you'll visit a car plant.
Okay. Amazing.
So,
Thank you.
yeah. So essentially, we realized that the biggest investments would go into a paint shop, welding line, and a press shop. Uh, and one way is to outsource it, then your unit cost economics don't come into play. And the other way is to then think out of the box. And thanks to the aerospace engineering skill sets that we were able to acquire over a period of time, we managed to eliminate these processes completely. Uh, there's no press shop in our or in our vehicle plant. There is no welding line. There is no paint shop. And yeah, I'm coming to that. So that's where the modularity and exoskeleton structures come into play. And essentially, if you're making a sustainable vehicle, you cannot hope to deforest thousands of acres of land and then build a factory. You're not sustainable from the word go, essentially. There was also a no go for us. So all these factors put in. So we eliminated this, and now we are building our vehicles in what we call modular micro manufacturing, M cubes, which are small cubes of sheds, which are 150,000 square feet max, where we build the whole vehicle ground up. Manufacturing is done in house 70 to 80% of it. It's not that we are an assembly shop, to be honest. And these things we have been able to pull off because of our exoskeleton structure. Generally, if you look at a chassis or a vehicle, it's one long member sort of. We have a built-up chassis. It's all aluminum. We have moved into, and there are a lot of patents which I can't disclose, of course, but a lot of patents around it to get it to work in this form, to have a built-up chassis inspired by aerospace structures, look at biomimicry as an option. To get all those things done, we had to sort of work towards building this vehicle, and that whole thing came together in the form of a modular micro manufacturing setup, exoskeleton, which then is ultra modular. You can increase the length of the vehicle, the breadth of the vehicle, the height of the vehicle without having to change a lot of things, which in a car plant would mean investing at least a few, 10, 15, $20 million just to tool up the line to change the vehicle. We don't need to do that. We can build it on the same line, on the same platform. We can add strength of the chassis, reduce the strength of the chassis, increase the powertrain, change the suspension modularly without changing the whole core. Uh, it's like a Lego piece, if you can imagine, an expandable or a contractible Lego piece. That's what our vehicle is. So once we made it, and then this all came by design. This was thought through by design. Uh, and through design, if we are able to achieve these things, then we can manufacture them or create it, uh, a product which can be industrialized with limited investment. So what we have ended up doing now is we can build these vehicles at 1/10 uh, the area required, 1/10 the manpower, and 1/10 the investment required to do vis-a-vis a traditional car. And that's what we are doing right now at producing vehicles.
So you are not welding together the exoskeleton, which is the traditional way of doing it.
Yes,
The
absolutely.
exoskeleton is mass produced in a way that it is easily interlockable.
Yes. The joinery details are, of course, patentable, but that's the patents we have. We have almost 30 plus patents awarded to us. Another 40, 50 are still being they've applied for awaiting confirmation. So that's the kind of IP that we have built around our vehicle.
But how does the exoskeleton manufactured? You would need a press machine for that, right?
We don't have one.
How
You'll have
do
to visit
we-
to visualize it, right? How do I explain it without? I mean, it's a
Right.
very technical jargon to put here. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. Okay. Amazing. So, essentially, you have worked a lot on the exoskeleton design, so that it is one single design which can create multiple form factors.
We just had one opportunity to make it right, and I hope we made it right.
Amazing. Okay. Got it. And so in 2020, when you raised your first round, at what stage were you? Had you made this exoskeleton by then?
MVP was ready. Our MVP was ready, and we were developing, getting it ready for mass production. Also, there's a lot of reliability testing that has to occur before you launch the vehicle. You have to check for uh, uh, the vehicle has to run for 1 lakh kilometers without a failure. It has to. I mean, you would not love to get off in the middle of a road in heat and say that your car is not functional. Same things would work through for any automobile. We don't want it to break down in the middle of the road for some issue or the other. Uh, so yeah,
Do you also need some sort of regulatory approvals, some
yeah.
license to make a car and all? Like there would be some role of government approvals in this.
Of course, of course, of course. They are what we call the homologation certificate. Uh, it's Central Motor Vehicle Act (CMVR) guidelines that uh, you know uh, you know take through the safety reliability of the vehicle. So they do a bunch of tests at government approved centers. So it's not that you can privately get it done. And our homologation was completed in 2020 itself. Very very close to when we raced. Yeah.
And did you have any early customers in place, like potential customers who kind of give a soft
Yeah,
commitment?
we had soft commitments in 2019 itself, and we showcased the concept. So that's what the whole thing is. There's a saying which I always thought was until then, it's just a good thing on paper, right? That nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. Because that sort of holds true in a way that uh, it was difficult. Yes, it was difficult to convince people that a startup can build a vehicle, but also the world needed such a vehicle essentially. So people were ready to risk at least back then. Now, of course, they have a confidence that we are building, deliver vehicles, we can produce vehicles. That confidence is built into them. But those things were earlier. At least for big, large aggregators to have confidence in us, talk to us. A lot of the customers co-developed all these changes after 2019 that we have been pushing out over the last 4 5 years. Uh, they have participated in the design process to make a product that fits their requirement.
Amazing. You had Amazon signed up by the time you got your seed funding, or that happened
Mm,
later?
It was around the same time. I don't know what was before, but I mean it's almost 4 years now. But it was around that same quarter everything happened.
Wow, amazing. That was a great quarter for you.
Yeah.
So, uh, once COVID hit, then what happened? Tell me, like 2020 onwards, the journey.
COVID was a challenge in terms of uh, how we work, right? Like a software company, you can still work from home, do your
There is no
stuff.
work from home. Yes.
Yeah, you can't build vehicles sitting at home,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, but we doubled down on our R&D during that phase. We spent a lot of our time or on a daily basis trying to understand how further we can improve the vehicle. For us, we were not into mass production at that point of time. So we did not have a lot of people. So as to say, the team had grown up to 30, 40 individuals, I believe, around that time, and maybe 50. But it was not a whole large team that we had to take things forward. And most of them were working on the design and improvement. So we doubled down on our efforts to find out where else we can improve. So that uh, it was clear, of course, it's not going to be a lockdown which will last forever. Once the lockdown sort of eases off, we can then go to work on making the vehicle even better. And I guess that's what we did. We fine tuned our manufacturing processes. We fine tuned our design processes. We improved a lot. We reduced our weight by another 20% on the vehicle. So those are the activities we undertook during that initial phase of 2 to 4 months, which was the first lockdown. And after that, it was always a hybrid working that continued even during the second lockdown and so on and so forth. So essentially, that's how we managed to create, uh, you know, uh, some value during that phase. But also, it helped us from their perspective that people saw blue skies after a long, long time, uh, and then people realized that they also need to be using greener vehicles to help. restore the planet. A lot of the people realize that uh, sustainability and green environment is a mandate. You can't just use it as a buzzword, but you actually have to change, and it's only for the better. The whole planet will feel better. So I guess those are the kind of realizations which sort of push demand for. And then, e-commerce companies were the ones which made the most during that time. So the demand for our vehicles kept on getting stronger because of that. So I guess that was the COVID period. But the world went through a lot of suffering, and I really pray that we don't have to go through that phase collectively as a civilization again. It was really painful. India, the first and second lockdown were horrible. Globally, we saw so many people lose to COVID. I really hope that those things don't repeat again.
Hmm. So when did you get your factory for mass production ready?
It was ready last year, mid of last year, or
Okay.
2022. That's when we got it ready.
Hmm. What is your plant capacity?
Currently, we have a demand for tens and thousands of these vehicles right now as we speak. So we are making a factory that will meet these demands and reach the production that our customers are demanding from us. But we have a few large customers who are supporting us.
So you spoke of your customers helping you build features that they want. And you also told me you had the list of 150 features which were needed in a new generation delivery van. What are some of those features? Can you talk about some of
First was the
those?
delivery van itself.
Uh,
We didn't
yeah,
forget.
yeah,
That was the
yeah,
first one.
and not safe for
Yeah.
three-wheelers, more
Yeah.
comfortable for the driver.
And also made for last mile and mid-mile
Uh,
deliveries.
uh,
That was the first one. The second and most important factor was how we can have the height of the vehicle to match the warehouse loading heights.
Okay.
If there's an offset, if you have to sort of load something at the same level, it's easy to load from one to other. Something like this or this.
Mhm.
So we have to optimize it to meet get it as close as reality, so that it's much easier for people to load and unload the vehicle. So that was one of the biggest ones. Secondly, the rear door of the nobody provides a complete body in India because it's just chassis that are sold.
Oh,
And then,
okay.
so then the rear door has to.
Body like covered through some cloth material or like
No, they get it fabricated outside. No, some
Sure.
dedicated bodybuilders.
Okay.
Then the other thing was that the door has to open 270 degrees.
So you
Because
are selling the complete thing, right? You're not selling the body. Okay.
yeah, of course, use and build the powertrain and the chassis.
Yeah.
So it is the door had to open 270 degrees so that it can back up and join at the loading bay again, as I said. So that is one of the tire issue. Beyond that, they are trade secrets. I can't disclose too much to you.
I'm sure it will become public knowledge soon. Like once people see the way.
Yeah, once people use 1,000 of our vehicles, and you'll be able to see that. Yeah, this is a thought through feature. I hope they appreciate it.
What about features for like around uh, telematics, the IoT related features?
Yeah, so those are a given these days. I mean, I don't even need to say anything. That is something which is an obvious demand in terms of the fact that they need control of the vehicle, understand how it performs, fleets need to manage it better, and that's a very basic feature these days, I guess.
Like you have dashboards for fleet owners where they can see utilization of
Yeah, utilization, charge level, which is the nearest charger for their people, driver behavior, for example. Yeah, these are all basic features, I guess. It's standard now these days.
Okay. Amazing. So what is a vehicle priced at?
We'll at Unveil we'll let you know.
Okay. But
Uh,
ballpark numbers, like how does it compare with the
See, it will be
alternative ICE,
expensive
ICE
than
engine?
the ICE. it will be extremely expensive than the ICE alternatives. But the per kilometer cost is going to be so efficient that uh, fleet owners are going to absolutely love the returns they get from our vehicle.
Hmm, hmm. Will it be cheaper than three-wheel ICE also, the per kilometer cost?
No, no, no. Three-wheeler ICE, we never did that comparison. Interesting question. But it would be close, very close. It may, I can't comment whether it's cheaper or not, but it'll be extremely close.
Okay, okay. So a
Yeah,
three-wheeler
honestly, you
ICE
can't
owner
compare.
can.
No, a three-wheeler ICE will be 500 kgs. We do 1 ton of payload, almost 2 times the size of that.
Okay.
So that may not
Hmm,
necessarily be a right comparison. Also,
hmm, hmm. Okay, okay. So what are the current challenges in front of you that you are currently working to solve?
so the biggest challenge I believe is producing these numbers with the right reliability. I mean, producing 20, 30 numbers, and that's a challenge that our team is up to it. We have the right team with people from grade A automotive companies now who are focusing on making reliable manufacturing processes. Uh, but the challenge remains to create a product. You know, product number one to product number 1 lakh should have the same quality. You can't have a variance in the quality that takes place. We have to maintain the variance. Uh, we're doing a pretty good job of it right now as we speak. But we have to still produce in large numbers for us to get there. But our focus is to get the quality right. I mean, you cannot produce a vehicle that does not work. Simple as that. So our effort is to get the
So right now, mass
the
production is the challenge that you're solving.
we are already mass production, but maintaining the quality in mass production. So we have to be very careful. We're taking each step, measured environment, right? We're going from 1 vehicle a day to 5 a day to 15 a day. Although we can go straight away to 50 a day. But would that actually solve a problem or create a problem is something you have to. So that is one. And, second, we are looking forward, working with the government also to ensure that the financing of the EVs sort of becomes more viable. Currently, the cost of finance for a EV is much higher than that of a normal vehicle. And so even if it's a TCO positive vehicle, eventually, the benefits will be taken away by higher cost of financing. Uh,
And by
in a
TCO
vehicle.
positive, you mean total cost of ownership
Cost of
is
ownership,
cheap. Ah, okay,
yes,
okay.
affordable. It's never cheap.
Yeah, right, affordable. Okay. So
Yeah.
why does why is financing a challenge for you? You're selling to enterprise customers, right? Like you would be selling to the Amazons and these
No, no,
logistics and
no. So the logistics providers who work for the big retailers, but most of the vehicles are financed. Nobody invests uh, a lot of money in their assets, right? So if the financing becomes a more viable alternative, then suddenly the transition will sort of shoot up. Uh, so that becomes critical for the mass adoption of EVs. And eventually, what is our aim? Not to produce 2, 3,000 vehicles. That's an easy job. 5,000. The job is that we improve the environment, climate. For that, India needs to change very fast in terms of number of EVs on the road, and making financing at least accessible will help in the transition much faster because it is a clear TCO benefit. It's a profitable vehicle for the fleet owners. It's going to add value to the fleets they work for. I mean, all those benefits are a given. It's a check mark, tick mark on the box. But financing is something. But we are working. The government is pretty positive, and I hope very soon, these issues will sort of work out. And any new industry that comes up faces some structural challenges, right? Just imagine Henry Ford making a vehicle when there were no roads to run it on.
right. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. So
So
financing will help you offset the initial high upfront cost. So that high upfront cost can be converted into a lower monthly installment so
lower
that
monthly installment or something. Yeah.
cost of ownership remains neutral because
Yes.
you would spend less money on fuel and that
Yeah. And
can go
we are
towards
only
the
helping the
installment.
nation build by reducing the cost. All this pollution and all has an economic cost also, right? We don't discuss about it. Extremely difficult to quantify. Uh, but I read a McKinsey report maybe 5 years back. And there's an interesting story which I'll share. But the report stated that due to congestion, pollution, it has a societal impact on the people living in the country. And people become less creative, they become less family oriented, which directly leads to reduction in spending or qualitative spending, which would help the economy. And they believe if you improve the quality of life or happiness index within a nation, uh, it would lead to a 0.2 to 0.5 uh, percent change in the GDP eventually. How to quantify it? Of course, there are more brilliant minds who would have done this, but it has something which we can relate to everybody. Right? If you get home early, or happy, you have time to spend with your family, you can go out at any time of the day without having to worry about pollution, about congestion. Uh, it would definitely make your life better, my life better for sure. And s- Similar would be the case, I guess, if we can sort of change the transition faster. Just imagine a billion people feeling better in India. How much impact we can create on the economy as a whole. Uh,
And what's
but
the story you wanted to?
Yeah, so 2014, 15, when I was on the powertrain journey and all, there was a report published by some of the big management consulting firms, which stated that India would be the last in transition for EVs because there's no preparedness from a India perspective to move in that direction. And a lot of my friends, well wishers, showed this report to me, sent it to me, and they said, you should rethink your career choices. So it's interesting, the journey, and now you see the management reports. They're saying that India would be the next fastest or third fastest nation to move towards electrification. So yeah, it's funny how time changes.
And I think in commercial vehicles, India is really going fast in EV adoption.
Uh, yeah, actually, two wheelers and three wheelers are still the major mainstay. But then again, I would sort of slightly differ on this. Commercial vehicle, there is hardly any serious numbers being put out.
Three
So
wheelers is also commercial vehicle, right? So you said
yeah, but how many three wheeler goods vehicles are sold? Commercial in nature, right? They are mostly passenger rickshaws which are selling. Yeah,
got it. So it's a small sliver of the market which is seeing EV adoption,
absolutely.
bulk of the market. So what's
Two
the
wheeler, of course. Two wheelers, of course, there's a major shift. You can see a visible pie of the chart going out, but
Mhm. Yeah, which is why all traditional two-wheeler companies are also getting into this
moving
space.
towards that.
And so
Uh,
what's your roadmap? Couple of years down the line, help me understand where you see yourself. What all would you be doing? What kind of numbers would you be doing?
Yeah. So, if you look at us as a company, we were the pioneers to have a native EV four-wheeler commercial vehicle for electric vehicles. Interestingly, if you look at EVage from a global, and I'm dispassionately talking about EVage, that's why I say EVage. At a global level, what is the competition we have? We are a small commercial vehicle manufacturer. The kind of vehicles we manufacture, there are one or two global players who are actually doing this.
Like Rivian is doing it in the US.
Rivian is the
Or,
most arrival, most obvious thing, and then there's nobody else doing this. So we are bullish about in the first few years to capture the immense demand that is there. Every day we talk to customers. Every day people are asking for more and more vehicles. The idea is to fulfill the demand in the next 2 to 3 years, which could run into tens and thousands plus.
so right
You know,
now, sales is not a challenge for you. It is
should
about
not be.
fulfilling the which is the challenge.
Yeah,
Like
that's a short-term goal for 1.5 years. Beyond that, we see as ourselves as a global player. There are a lot of the developing economies who have not developed this technology. They want electrification, and EVH would be there. I mean, the whole globe is our playground essentially, and we would want to help nations that want to go electric, go green, create roadmaps to help them go green because we've done it. We've done it in one of the most challenging economies in the world. You see, in India, no major global OE could mass produce, barring a few,
Korean,
high end
Japanese
players.
companies. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and nobody has been able to sustain in India. Uh, and if we are able to produce vehicles which are in demand, are solving the problems, both from a price perspective and a performance perspective, uh, we would be in a very special place, and we would want to take these expertise to countries that actually need electrification.
So essentially, you want EVH to be a global four-wheel
Of course,
delivery van vehicle.
of
Like
course,
you want to
yeah,
focus on that niche and be a global player in that niche.
of course.
Okay, fascinating. You recently raised a pretty big $28 million funding round. Tell me about that.
I always say we just reached only 28 million. You look at the money raised by car companies. Tesla had spent $280 million before they unveiled their first vehicle. Uh, Rivian ran into a few $1 billion. So we are still starting off from that perspective.
And this money is for setting up the
This is
production.
to set our production facility and, of course, spend on sales and try to create sales channels, service channels for our vehicle.
So what is the way you'll do sales? Will it be through the regular dealer model, like you'll appoint dealerships
No,
or?
we are doing direct sales. We will be a direct brand in that sense. Yeah,
Okay. So you'll only need to set up service centers and you'll not need to set up those
of
dealerships for
course,
doing sales.
not at all.
Okay. Okay. And that brings us to the end of this conversation. I want to ask you for a favor now. Did you like listening to this show? I'd love to hear your feedback about it. Do you have your own startup ideas? I'd love to hear them. Do you have questions for any of the guests that you heard about in this show? I'd love to get your questions and pass them on to the guests. Write to me at ad@thepodium.in. That's ad@thepodium.in.